The one thing that you're going to learn on today's episode is what you actually need to successfully take your medical device into the Middle Eastern market, specifically the Gulf Cooperation Council, otherwise known as the GCC countries. Welcome to Clinician to CEO, the podcast helping clinicians simplify your go-to-market strategy so that you can stop guessing and turn your working prototypes into international medtech businesses. I'm your host, Hakeem Adebi. Let's get started. So the three things that you're going to discover today are, number one, what medtech companies need to understand before entering the GCC market. Number two, the biggest mistakes companies make when they're trying to establish their products in that region. And then number three, what it actually takes to build a successful route to market, from choosing the right partners to supporting them once they're in place. Now, the GCC can be an incredibly attractive market for medtech companies, and it often is, but you can't simply take what's worked in the UK or the US or Europe and then find the distributor and expect exactly the same approach to work in the GCC. Because you need to understand how the market operates, how hospitals buy, the importance of local relationships, and what your commercial partners will expect from you, and importantly, what you need to then do to support them. So today, we're going to be looking at what it actually takes to successfully enter and grow in the GCC. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Sameh, Salama, who works for Medtech Corp, which is a major distributor based in Dubai, working across the GCC. And obviously, they take products from international manufacturers and commercialize them across that region. So thank you very much and welcome to the show, Sameh.
Thank you, Hakeem. And I'm really happy to have me here in your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the first thing I just wanted to clarify is what's the difference between the GCC and the Middle East? Because in the UK, we just say the Middle East generally. We want to launch in the Middle East. And the GCC is part of the Middle East, but it's slightly different. If I'm just wondering from people who work in that area, do you mind which you use, or is there a preferred term?
GCC is only 6 countries. It's KSA, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and of course UAE. So the Middle East is different. The Middle East is a big territory, including the GCC inside, I think. Also, you can have in the Middle East, in the North Africa, so
Yes.
Egypt, Libya, and also there are more countries in the Middle East, like Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, many countries in this area, because the big area is the Middle East, but GCC, of course, a part of it, but GCC is having like a specific name for the countries that are on the Gulf.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, because I thought that's important to clarify, because it's not all the same. And I think today we're focusing mainly on the GCC. So that's I just wanted to clarify that right at the beginning for the listeners and the viewers. So if you were to think about, a manufacturer coming in from the West, and you work with a lot of them, what would you say is the biggest misconception that those Western medtech companies have about selling into the GCC?
Actually, the GCC many misconceptions, but the most important things are that the GCC is not one market.
Yes.
GCC is, as I told you, many countries inside the GCC. So KSA is different from UAE, different from Bahrain to Qatar to Oman, from many aspects, because the regulatory is different. Purchasing cycle is different. Even in the same country, I mean, for example, UAE, it is a little different from Dubai to Abu Dhabi to Northern Emirates. So they can behave differently. This is number one. The other thing is that manufacturers sometimes believe that, give us a good distributor and they will sell the product anyway. Distribution doesn't create demand by itself. I don't know if this is also in the Western countries, but here in our area, the product require physician education, require more clinical evidence, demonstrations, workshops. So it needs more things.
Okay, yeah. Now, and it's the same in every market, actually, in terms of that misconception, but it is a constant misconception where people think, as you just said, if I've got a good product and I give it to a good distributor, then my job is done, and we're going to get more into that.
Yes.
As we move through the questions, because that then leads you on to the next question, because if a good distributor doesn't only determine what is going to be successful in the GCC, then it's obviously there's the education you just talked about, but there's also the manufacturer. So when someone approaches you, a manufacturer approaches you, and I know you have many different manufacturers approaching you, how do you decide whether this is a product that you're going to take on, or you're going to say, actually, because of whatever it may be, I'm not going to work with that particular product?
Actually, like for me personally, I like set many criteria that I decide if this product is really fitting us or not, or maybe fitting the GCC or not. But actually, I'm speaking of my experience is that the clinical value is the most important thing. So if the product is really adding clinical value to the surgeon, to the end user, so this is number one.
Okay.
After this, so that we can discuss many things, but the clinical value is the most important factor that I rely on. If the product does not have any clinical value, does not add to the surgeon or does not add to the end user, so that why should I go for this product? The other things is that the clinical evidence, of course. So if the product is fine and is having a clinical evidence, not only the studies, but also the experience of the surgeons or the end users that are using the product itself. So if it is having really clear clinical evidence, so the product would be a nice product. One more important thing is that does it fit the portfolio I have? So if the portfolio I have is like surgical portfolio and that is another thing, not surgical. So how can I go for this other portfolio that I am not aware, but I'm not very involved in this market? So better to be in the same portfolio that I have. I have already customers in the same field. I have already relationships in this field. I know how to manage this portfolio. So this is more important. Then we come to the market itself. Is there really a market for it? The doctors will adopt this or not. And after this, the manufacturer, if the manufacturer will support us in this. And the support here, not only by giving like good prices and that's it. No, the support means many things. The support is like how the manufacturer doing the activities around the product, the workshops, the activities that is related to adopting the product, many things around the product. But if you would like give 1, 2, 3, 4, number one is the clinical value that is adding to the end user.
Yeah, no, and I think that's for any manufacturer watching and looking to get into the GCC. And this is advice also generally for any market you're going into, that, as Sameh said, you need to make sure that there's a clinical value, so there's actually some benefit to the end user that they're going to be able to get. Because as you said, distributors can't create demand. The demand has to be there because there's obviously clinical value, and then obviously making sure you've got the clinical evidence. That's part of that support package from the manufacturer, alongside the other things which I said we're going to get into. And then
one more thing I wanted to add here is that also the insurance nowadays is playing an important role. So if also that product would be accepted by the insurance, how is the price of the product to the insurance? If it is already used in markets like us and the insurance is already accepted this product in the other markets. So the insurance is playing an important role these days because most of the people now are under insurance. And there is many expats I'm talking about, for example, UAE, many expats in the UAE. So they are all covered by insurance. If the insurance will accept this very, for example, advanced technology, if the insurance will have another say about this. So this is really important.
Yeah, no, and it kind of ties to the one you said about, does it fit the portfolio? So if I'm a manufacturer and I'm looking for a distributor, you should be looking for a distributor that's got experience in the product area or disease area that your product's in. And then that leads on to the question that you just talking about insurance, because it may well be that it's a new product, so it's been launched and it hasn't yet been introduced into the insurance. So I'm assuming that then if I'm a manufacturer, I should be looking for a distributor who's got experience in working with insurance organizations and getting that product used within that insurance. Would that be fair to say?
Actually, the distributor does not directly deal with the insurance companies here. The hospital itself is dealing with the insurance.
Yeah.
So we need to convince the hospitals first to adopt the product. and then they need to ask the insurance to cover the product. So directly to the insurance, no, but we need to be aware if this will be accepted by the insurance by doing the survey first.
Yeah.
So survey is really important in this area, because actually what could happen is that you can say this is a very nice product. We can go and have a very nice sales from this product, and then you discover that is not covered, you know?
Yes. So the what you're saying is there really is that you need to make sure that the distributor, from the manufacturer side, the distributor needs, or you need to work with the distributor to make sure that they've done a full, you just said there, survey of the market. How is it purchased? Is it something that the insurance would take on, etc.? And then from your point of view, you would be the people actually doing that survey so that you would be comfortable that if you launch this product into the market, that it's going to be used and be paid for effectively.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then just in terms of some of these nuances to bring it live for the audience, have you got any examples? And I don't want you to give any names or any state secrets, but have you got any examples of a product that's been given to you and it succeeded very well? And then just talk us through what happened and what was the reason why that particular product, and again, as I said, you can anonymize it, but why did that succeed so well, whereas others may not have succeeded as well?
Alhamdulillah, fine. We have many successful products, but in my opinion, I have a product that is really successful in the field of surgical oncology. Actually, the product is having a really clinical value that is really addressing many problems that is with the breast surgery. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say names, but I think it's okay.
Yeah. I prefer not to. I don't want to get in any trouble with anybody.
That's okay, not a problem. So the product is really an important product in the breast surgery and is really giving a clinical value, as I told before. What happens is that when we thought about the product in the beginning, we could see that there is really a potential to the product. But how can we make the adoption in the hospitals and with the end user at the end of the day? Because when you have a really good product, you need to have adoption, and you need to build a market around the product. So what happens is that we started with the KOLs. Many KOLs all around the world are adopting this technique. And we started by giving awareness to the already existing customers that we have this product and is addressing this. And many KOLs all around the world are using this product and see this KOL, without mentioning the names, of course, this KOL is using the product and is having a very nice results. And it's not only with the patients, but with all the practice that he is doing. So we invested a lot in building awareness. We have, even after this, supported the clinicians after the initial adoptions. Almost now, the result is like more than 80% of the market share in this. Not only the market share, the growth from year to year is really good. The conversion from the older technology that was used before in localization of the breast or sentinel lymph nodes that was done by older techniques, now the adoption of the technique was marvelous all around the country and all around the GCC that we are working in. So the lesson from this is that the product didn't succeed simply because it was a good product. It was a good product and it's still very nice product, but it succeeded because we built the ecosystem around the product.
Yeah, no, and I think that's an important thing. And just extending on from that, because we talked about the manufacturer and what the manufacturer needs to have in place. In that example, what did the manufacturer have? All the things that you would hope to have in place? Because my argument always is with everybody is that when a manufacturer goes into a new market, they should see the distributor as a partner, because the distributor is effectively your representation of that company in that market. So you should be ready to support, as you mentioned before, with clinical evidence and workshops, etc. So I'm assuming in that case that you had all those things in place.
Yes. Let me tell you also, there is like a confusion from the manufacturer themselves about the distributionship and the partnership. Yeah. So at the end of the day, if this is really a good product, but the supplier is not very supportive, it will not succeed.
Yes.
So in the support, not only in the level of giving a good prices, even like doing workshop, but also the clinical education, the market development, which is really important for the manufacturer to do, especially in our area, because the clinical education is really important. Maybe the product will be launched first in Europe or in USA, but it's not yet launched in our area. So we need to do the clinical education in our area first before saying that we have a successful product. And also the support in the training and the regulatory for the people that are working on ground. That is really important. The regulatory team should be very cooperative with our team and the regulatory. And that is really what we can conclude from all of this. The partnership, distributionship is really different from the partnership.
Yeah, one of them. So just to talk to me a bit more about, you talk about the clinical education, the training, the regulatory. How just for people who are listening and watching, how, if I'm a manufacturer, what does that mean to you? So what does that manufacturer need to do? How much time do they have to spend? Do they have to come out to the market to do it online? Just so people can understand the time investment that they need to put in if they want to be successful in the GCC with a partner such as yourself.
Actually, one of the really good things here in the GCC is that the regulatory is not taking much time, but we need to have the right and the correct documents from the supplier. In other countries, I could hear 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, but here in GCC, not that much. The governments are really cooperative, very cooperative in registering products. Some countries needs like very clear documents and very clear certifications, and that's it. There is no complication about this. I think there shouldn't be a product taking more than 6 months in the regulatory journey. When I tell regulatory journey is really a journey, because we start and there could be like during the journey obstacles that we need also support from the supplier in this situations, because some documents are need to be attested. You know, these issues could extend the duration of registering or the MOH approval, like in UAE or Bahrain, you know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take more than 3 to 6 months, inshallah.
Okay, and then in terms of the educational support and the training, what sort of time frame or time commitment would you expect from the manufacturer, so like at the beginning and then ongoing?
There is no time frame for this, because it's according to the complexity of the product itself. If the product is really very straightforward, we don't need too much training support in this. But if the product if the product in a very complicated area like surgical oncology, very important surgeries, so we need to have KOLs from outside. We need to have support from the clinical teams and the supplier. We need to send also our people to whatever place, to Germany, to UK, to USA, to be trained. And even after this, we could have after sales support, if that is a machine, something like this, for our engineers. So I cannot say a time frame for this, but let me tell you, the first 3 to 6 months are really important. Sometimes also we need to send clinicians to be trained outside in a very complicated cases. Let me tell you, 3 to 6 months in the beginning, but the most important thing is that shouldn't be stopped, because during the journey, during the launch is really important, but after the launch and after the product is really settled in the market, there could be many like objections, many issues that we need to address to the end users. So for example, if already adopted by a hospital and started using, but they could have some problems from the machine or from the product itself, we need to be there and we need to consult the supplier or the manufacturer, because it is really important that this communication could happen in a fast way, and shall happen in a fast way, and in a way that is really accurate. We are dealing with medical equipment and not something that is normal. Medical means that people treated in hospitals. So That is really important, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a really critical point for anybody who is trying to get into the GCC and anyone who wants to work with distributors, in that, as you've identified there's a lot of support that's required. And I think people, and I always have this conversation, is that you will need to understand that if you want to go into the GCC, yes, it's a good market. Yes, there's shorter timelines regulatory from some other markets, but you still need to give a high level of support. And you need to go to the market, they need to come to your market, because you need to have that partnership working, rather than thinking, as we said at the outset, well, they're a great distributor, we'll give them the product, we'll do a bit of online training, and then we'll lead them to it, and then we'll speak to them in 6 months' time and say, where are the sales?
This will not happen here, yes. Actually, as I told before, the clinical education is really important part. And if the end user felt at any point that there is a risk using this, there is like something wrong using this product, he will stop. Simply, he will stop using it. At the end of the day, you will lose sales as a distributor and also manufacturer.
Exactly. And I think that's what sometimes, I'm not saying always, but manufacturers, because we're talking about the partnership, but what manufacturers have to understand is the distributor is a business as well. And a distributor has several products. And as you said, any distributor wants a manufacturer that is supportive, gives good margins, gives good prices, and gives the distributor the best chance of success. And I think that some manufacturers often think, oh no, because it's a brilliant product, then the distributor is going to focus on it. But if you're not supporting them and you're not giving them all the things that they need, and there's another manufacturer who is, then naturally the distributor will focus on the manufacturer that's giving them all those things. It's common sense, really, isn't it?
Yeah, let me tell you one more thing in this. Some of the GCC countries are really small markets, like, for example, Bahrain.
Yes.
So the sales rep is not only selling one product. He could be selling more than 3-4 products, for example. So why should he focus on a product that is really giving him headache, while he have another product that is a really nice product, doesn't have any problems. We have a very nice support from the manufacturer and is selling and achieving his target by another way. So here also an advice to the manufacturer is that the manufacturer should ensure that the distributor is having the capacity of people that is really working on the product. I will not say very dedicated, but I will say that he is giving the product the adequate amount of time and efforts in the market that will sell the product. Otherwise, your product will be loose in this very big portfolio. Sometimes I could see that distributors are having very big portfolio. I say, how are you focusing on this very big portfolio and how are you getting sales out of this? And the result, as I expected, is that they are selling very much from specific products and the other products are lazy, sleeping.
Yeah.
I say sleeping.
Yes, a very diplomatic term. So if there was a UK or US medtech company that wanted to enter the GCC next year, for example, what would your first 5 recommendations be? Would they be that around clinical education, etc., that you mentioned, or if you just say, right, these are the 5 things that you need to do if you want to enter the GCC?
Number 1, don't choose the distributor that is, you feel that is, oh my God, this is a big distributor, my product will be successful. I think no. The more important factor is that if the distributor is having a portfolio that is really fitting the same product, because if he have a portfolio and a portfolio that is fit with your product, it will really open the doors to your product to be adopted to the surgeons. Relationships are really important in this industry. I mean, if you have already a relationship with the customers, so it is easy for the distributor to introduce the product. Vice versa, if you don't have any relationships or if you don't have any access to the same portfolio, so you will suffer and the manufacturer will also suffer. So that is important that the portfolio, the people on ground working in is the same as the product, your product working in. The other thing is that identify the KOLs very early, because if you identify the KOLs very early, your product will not take time to fly. If the KOLs in the same region having the product and use the product, your product will fly anyway, because the KOLs open also the doors to others to use the product. They train, they inform the peers, they do many like I say marketing activities on behalf of you. Okay. Also, ask the distributor to show the activity plan and the marketing plan before you ask about the numbers, which is really important. That is really, really important, because I could tell you, okay, your product is nice. We do the agreement, we sign the agreement based on a very big number. Then the product would stay 1 year, 2 years without achieving anything. And then after the 2 years, oh, sorry, I'm not able to do the job. You are free to go, but you have already lost 2 years.
Exactly.
But more important than the numbers is the activity. Even my team, I ask my team, what are the activities you are doing before I ask about the numbers? Because if you are doing the right activities, numbers will come automatically, inshallah. If you are not doing the activities, how can the numbers come, you know? And if you have a very nice marketing plan, this is really important and is giving the product the leverage and can defend your product against competitors, which is really important. And that is one of the most important things I stress with my team. How do you defend your product against competition? Because the competition, if you are really not very confident from your product, the competition will take a market share from you. I think these are the things that. One more thing is that to be patient with the good distributor that is doing activity. Be patient means that you can stay like 3 months, 6 months waiting for the numbers. Yes, but the distributor is doing the activity on ground. The activity, yani, not only doing like normal visits. No, activity means many things: workshops, education, clinical training, many things. Not only visiting and just like this. No, operations, if sometimes you are working in the surgery field. So you measure the success in the first 6 months by the activities done on the ground, not only the numbers.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really important, actually. And as I was writing them down, the activity plan before the numbers, as you said, is a really key one. I constantly advise manufacturers that I'm working with when they're trying to draw up the distribution agreement, because the distribution agreement, a lot of the time, manufacturers are obsessed with, oh, we just got to put high sales figures in. And I always discuss with them getting an activity plan, getting a marketing plan, because the distributor who's got a clear activity and marketing plan, number one, demonstrates they understand the market. But number two, as you said, it gives you an idea that they're putting the right inputs in. And if you put the right inputs in, the outputs invariably follow. Whereas you get lots of distributors who will promise you the earth and will tell you that they're going to do £1 million in 6 months. But then when you ask them for an activity plan, they don't really want to give you one. And to me, that's quite a red flag. Any distributor that doesn't want to give an activity plan, my question is, why would you not want a plan of how you're going to sell this product? So it's not that you're producing a plan for the manufacturer, you're producing a plan for yourself, which you then share with the manufacturer. And that's obviously got to be the sensible way to do it. So I really like that activity plan before the numbers. I think that's key. Because because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, how do you measure success? And you've answered it. So just on that bit, if you were to give me a few of those metrics, because you started talking about them, what are those activity metrics that you would say to a manufacturer? These are the things that you should be looking for in a distributor activity plan.
As I told you in the beginning, the activity is like really important for the product to be sold. The activities could be many things, not only the demonstration of the product, but also whatever things. I will give you many examples, but whatever things that lead to sales. This is the activity I would like define the activities. So, for example, some products needs not only visiting the customers, but also be with the customer inside the operating room, which is really important. Some products doesn't need to be in the operating room, but instead of that, training or doing the workshop for the whole staff. Some products need like persuasion, not only to the surgeon, but also to the hospital management. As I told you, the insurance companies here are a really important factor. So you need not only to persuade the surgeon, but also the hospital management. And how can you show that your product is not adding to the cost, but also if you use the product, for example, you could pay a little more, but you in the same time save the many costs from the operating time, for example, from so the activity could be according to the product itself. If the product is a surgical product, you need to be in the OT. If the product is a diagnostic or laboratory product, you need to take care of the clinical evidence more than the OT. It's according to the product itself.
Yeah. So in summary of what you're saying, effectively what you're saying is, whatever the product is, you have to work with the distributor, as in the distributor and the manufacturer work together to say, right, well, what are the key things that need to be done to deliver sales for this product? And that's really what you should be measuring in the first instance, in terms of these are the key things on this particular product that we know leads to sales, and that then leads to the understanding for the manufacturer, as you said, getting a distributor who understands those things. Because you can get lots of distributors who will say they can do it and don't actually understand what is required to get to that sale point. When you've got an experienced distributor like yourself, then you know that you can speak to them and they will be able to tell you, these are the key things that we will be measuring to ensure that we deliver sales, because we've done this 100 times before. And we know that these are the key metrics that we should be measuring.
And also the manufacturer itself could advise the distributor to do some specific activities. So if the product is successful, for example, in USA, and they have been doing the activities X in USA, you also need to transfer the message to the distributor that we need this specific X activity in your market so that the product could be successful. Don't leave the distributor like this. Then he will discover after 3-6 months that we were doing the activities in the wrong way and with the wrong people. How is this? So there is an important rule for the manufacturer to advise the distributor that the activities could be very, very good in this way, this specific activity.
Yeah. So again, it's coming back to what we said right at the beginning. It's about working in a partnership where the manufacturer has their role and brings their expertise. The distributor has to bring their expertise, and then you share it together as a partnership, and actually getting that activity right and understanding what activity leads to sales is the key thing that we should be focusing on in that first 3 to 6 months to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So no, I really appreciate that. And for those of you who've listened and watched my podcast before, I always like to do a decision scenario question for all my guests, and today's no different. So the question that I'm going to ask Sameh is that, so this is a hypothetical, but then hopefully we have a real world answer. So the question is, you've been approached by 4 manufacturers, but your business only has the resources to take on 1 new product this year. So which one do you choose first? Is it A, a product with outstanding clinical evidence, but the manufacturer expects you to do almost all of the commercial work yourself? B, a product with moderate clinical evidence, but the manufacturer has a clear commercialization plan for you, and they have marketing support, they have clinical training, and they're committed to generating demand alongside you. C, a product with excellent margins and strong commercial potential, but it's entering into a highly competitive market. Or D, finally, a completely novel product with huge potential, but very limited evidence and uncertain demand. And that's a perfect place on which to end. And of course, you're going to have to listen to the next episode if you want to hear what the answer is. And if you're building a medtech business and you're not sure whether your next move should be around evidence, market access, commercialization, distributor strategy, or adoption, do not guess. Book a healthcare export accelerator diagnostic call with me. Use my link in the show notes. And in that session, I'll help you identify the specific constraints blocking your momentum and the commercial move most likely to unlock your progress. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, thanks for listening. Keep challenging your assumptions and keep growing.